Greetings, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here. We are now live. And of course, we have Sophia here. She's joining us. How are you, Sophia?
Doing great. How about you, Greg?
Not bad at all. Just got home, so the timing is right on point. So, we got some people in the chat room right now. Hopefully, somebody can just let me know if you can hear us okay in there. I'd really appreciate that. I'd hate for this to just be us talking to each other and nobody can hear us on YouTube. So, let's go ahead. I'll
Was
just wait.
anybody else
hmm
joining us tonight?
if anybody wants to, all they have to do is let me know, and we will send them that code. But I haven't had anybody ask for it, and to be honest, I haven't. I've just been so busy today, the last few days, that I haven't had a chance to reach out to the people that I would normally reach out to, and say, hey, just in case you want to join us, here's the code. So there are a couple people that I'm here that I usually do that too, so I apologize to those people. But timing is not on my side today. I'm working on my time management. So I want to say hi to, we got Pansy in the chat room, and Lori's in there too, and I know we got a few other people. So if anybody can make sure that you can hear me, we will begin here. It looks like everybody can see the screen, so that's always a good thing. But I want to make sure that the audio is coming in okay. If not, we'll have to adjust some things. So I'm just going to ask people in the chat room, can you hear me? And I figure maybe at some point, depending on how much time we have, I might play Catherine's latest video. It's like 11 minutes. So maybe I'll play that at the end or something. But I think people really need to go to Catherine's YouTube channel and check that out. All right, Lori has confirmed it. Thank you, Lori. Speaking of Lori, we now have, thanks to her and to her very diligent work, we have 2,000 people that have signed the I petition. Let me see if I can actually pull that up. Now that I got great internet, I'm going to take full advantage of this. So I am just going to type in IPETIT, I petition, I think David Crowley. She said 2,000 people. 2,000 people, and I just thought that that was awesome. And it's still growing. Isn't that great?
That's amazing.
That really is. So, and I think she's going to help update the names and everything here. But if anybody does want to sign that, like, just do what I did. I just typed in I petitions and typed in David Crowley, and it's one of the first things that came up here. So it's very easy to find if anybody needs help finding that. I wonder if I could just go ahead and post this in the group here, or maybe I should wait a little bit. Maybe I'll wait till it's updated. But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that I thanked everybody for that. So good, everybody can hear us. I think we are ready to rock and roll. She put 120 in yesterday. Wow, awesome. That's a lot of work, and that's manually. I wonder if she's manually putting them in. We have Lori in the chat here for people who have joined us in the live chat room. We are live right now on the Gray Stage YouTube channel. Sophia has joined us. We have our topic for this week. I'm really scared about next week's topic, but we can talk about that too. We'll definitely get there. But this topic is about crime scene staging and its detection. So this was given to me. Somebody sent this to me. Somebody from our group. I don't think they want to be named or anything, but I just want to say thank you to that person. You know who you are, and I know a lot of people send me stuff, and I try to get to as much of it as I possibly can. So I really appreciate everybody doing their own research, just coming to their own thoughts and just thinking about this case from their own view, because we all do. Even if we try not to have a bias, we all are still going to have some type of a bias, just by the fact that we come from different places, the environment is different, etc., etc. I don't need to explain that to anybody. Are you doing okay over there,
Sorry.
Sophia?
Just dying quietly, or not too quietly.
Not quietly,
Sorry.
slowly. All right.
Just
Well,
gonna have my Vicks Kleenexes.
that's okay. Aren't you glad you aren't doing a PowerPoint today?
I know, right?
All right. Well, let's go ahead and go through this. This article or this PDF was 16 pages, and yeah, it took me a while to find again, so I had to go through my files, all my thousands of documents, but here we are. So let's go ahead and go through this crime scene staging and its detection. This is written by Robert R. Hazelwood and Michael R. Napier. Okay, let's look at the abstract. Crime scene staging is a recognized phenomenon within the criminal justice field. This article defines the occurrence for staging, identifies the motives for staging, and identifies the acts that participated the staging. Let me read that again. And identifies the act that precipitated the staging. Sorry. It reports the results of an exploratory survey of 20 well versed and highly trained law enforcement officers' experience with staging in fatal and non fatal incidents. And it reports the most commonly observed forms of crime scene staging. Investigative strategies and indicators of staging are also presented. Sophia, have you read this one? Have you read this article? Stop me if you've heard this one.
I I've read all the way to, I think it was page 12.
Okay, we got
So
farther than I did, further than I did for sure.
it's actually very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
I was trying to finish it up today, and we were just running errands, and I didn't get a chance to finish it.
Okay. Well, we'll go
But
through
it
some
is
of this.
really fascinating.
What is there anything particular that kind of stuck out to you? That just off the top of your head, or as we go here, I'm sure a lot of things are gonna bring up
Well,
certain views.
I wish that they would have given more examples per each category.
Mm. Okay.
But I mean, it already is a pretty long article, so I guess that they just were sticking to one, just out of, like, I don't know.
Yeah, they probably could have written a
Sorry.
whole book on this, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fascinating that nobody had gone through and done the statistics for staging crimes, and that there hadn't been an actual study done. I was surprised by that. I thought for sure that police would keep um, records and about fake crimes or staged crimes.
Yeah,
I
that
was
is. Yeah,
surprised.
I'm right there with you. I think it was, it's just it. I was shocked at it, and so it kind of goes back to the whole thing where we keep talking about training. It's part of the problem with the training. Why so many people who walked into David Crowley's house, why they didn't consider the possibility that this was a staged crime scene, because I don't think those words are mentioned anywhere. I mean, foul play. You could do little wordplay and kind of throw that into that, but um, yeah, I think you're definitely right on the money there. I haven't seen any stats, and it doesn't seem like a big issue. I'd be very curious if everybody asked 5 cops what their view is on crime scene staging. What type of answers would you get? Would you get the Hollywood answer? Oh, that only happens in the movies. In real life, that stuff doesn't happen. Well, here we have some real things. And one of the fascinating things, the first thing, obviously, is the very first sentence here, because now we're going back to the scripture. I mean, that really stuck out to me first of all, and that really made me want to dig deeper into this. And I had never thought about what they were really saying. I was like, what is he talking about? It says, crime scene staging has been documented since the Bible times. One of the earliest accounts deals with a young man named Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery and then conspired to convince their father Jacob that wild animals had killed and devoured Joseph. Interesting, right there.
Mhm.
Because obviously there's some similar things that happened with David. Obviously, they're not saying that the animal killed them, but animal scavenging, that just is just that weird connection. To support their story, they slaughtered a goat and dipped Joseph's robe into blood, which is a very satanic thing. We know about the blood that was Camel's blood that was probably slaughtered and dipped onto that blood wall. Jacob was convinced of Joseph's death and became extremely distraught. And hopefully, everybody who's read the Bible kind of knows how that story ends. I won't spoil it for you in this case. Um, but it's interesting, right? And it brings up a great point when you talk about stats. How many people are really thinking about stage crime scenes? Is this a part of the training of our law enforcement, including the feds? And if it is, how far does it go? How deep does it go? How seriously is it taken? And how many crimes out there that that could possibly fall into this thing where these could be stage crimes, and even stage crimes, right? Like, what do you think of when I say stage crime? What does that make you think of?
Well, just in recent history, you look back at all the fake hate hoaxes going on, like the fake hate crimes.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, Jesse Smollett, and other ones where people will say, "Oh, we had somebody go around and spray swastika, or excuse me, uh, the swastikas.
Swastikas. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you." All over a church or whatever, and come to find out, or not a church, but a synagogue, and then come to find out that it was the janitor who did it, and the janitor's Jewish, that kind of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
and not to diminish that hate crimes actually happen or anything. It's just lately the rise of them are happening, and they hit the news. People overreact, and then you learn 48 to 72 hours later, hey, wait a minute, this was all fake, and they confess to it. But by then, the media has that feeding frenzy, and people all over the internet have gone stir crazy, and they're on to the next thing and totally have forgotten about this.
That's
And
right.
it's crazy. And then you think about actual crimes being faked, whether it's because of greed or they're trying to save their butts from going to jail, just all kinds of things. And this article covers it, by the way. They cover every possibility that they could think of. And that's what I thought was extremely interesting.
Well,
Is
Pansy's
they
in
cover
the
the gambit.
Pansy's in the chat room saying that there's something in the last page was very much like what happened to the Crowleys. So I think let's start at the end.
You want to go
Why
straight
not?
to the last page?
Why not?
I
Let's
didn't
go
even get a
straight to
chance
six.
to go
I
there.
haven't either, so this will be great. Pansy's brought this up a couple times, so uh, okay, we're on page
Mm,
16,
wait, we might want to go to
15.
says indicators of a staged scene.
Pansy, you're gonna have to help us out here. Stage scenes involving fatalities, maybe is what she's talking about on page 15. Hey, for real.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us too. And if anybody in the chat has any questions, any comments, or anything like that, go ahead and make a comment, and we'll make sure to that we discuss that. Pansy says yes. Okay, so this is what we're going to look at: the stage scenes involving fatalities. This is on page 15 of 16 of the staged crime scene article that was sent to us, and I know a couple other people in the group have read this, so I'd be curious to get everybody's view if you have the time to go and read this 16 pages It's in the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group, and I also have it on the website, thegraystage.wordpress.com, so you can download it there. But it is fascinating. I'm very fascinated by this. So let's look at this. Okay, stage scenes involving fatalities. 19 of the 20 officers, that's 95%, stated that the staging offender in stage scenes involving fatalities is most often white, and they unanimously reported that the person staging the crime was most often male. Interesting. When asked about the relationship between the victim and the killer, 17 of the 20 officers, that's 85%, reported that the offender was or had been an intimate partner of the victim. Wow. 2 of the 20 officers, 10%, advised that the offender was an acquaintance, and 1%, 5%, reported the offender as other. When asked about the most common age range in the staging offender, 13 of the 20 officers, that's 65%, stated an age range between 26 and 35. That matches them. I think they weren't even 30, both David and Kamel. David might have been 30, or they were or 29 or 28. 5 of the 20 officers, 25%, stated that they were most commonly between 36 and 45 years old, and 2% advised that 21 to 25 was the most common age of the staging offender. Interesting. Let's go. Let's keep rolling on here. The surveyed officers reported that in staged non-fatal sexual crimes, the most common offender was a white female between 21 to 30 years old. In staged crime involving fatalities, the staging offender was most commonly a white male who was an intimate partner of the victim at between 26 and 35 years old. That definitely matches David, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely falls in line with that. So it probably should have been taken more seriously, I would think. But that's interesting. Let's see. Very serious. This article addresses very serious situations that involved, okay, what we call make believe, and a lot of what we're seeing here, that's exactly what it comes off as. It's just not. Let's see. The manipulation may take place by simply lying verbally or in writing about facts or circumstances, or physically rearranging a scene, body, or property. Well, that's interesting
Mm-hmm.
too, because we had just talked about this in our last call, in our last chat, that there's no way, it doesn't make sense where the bullet hole is in the living room ceiling, where the blood on that recliner is. Those two things. I mean, and there's probably some other things too, right? But I mean, just looking at
Oh yeah.
those two things and where the bodies were found, how do we not look into the possibility that at some point, some way, somehow the bodies were moved? Now, I haven't found anything. Maybe I missed it in the 5,000 pages of documents that we have, or whatever. Okay, maybe like 200, whatever. But or 2,000, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,500, to give or take. With because those phone records, there's a lot in there too, but it's a lot of just jibber jabber. But I haven't seen anything where they claim that the dog had moved the bodies. Now, if the dog has eaten off of the bodies or is responsible for that, maybe by implying that, then they're also implying that the dog moved the bodies.
I could see him moving Ranny. I could see that very easily. I cannot see paleo moving dead weight of two adults. I just can't see that. I
He
could see him moving arms and legs, but I
Mhm.
can't see him moving and dragging an entire body.
So on that recliner, I think there was a head there. I don't know what your view is, but there was something there. Something very bloody was there. Whatever that
Hmm.
was moved. It had to have been moved. or else it doesn't make sense where the bodies were. Is it possible that that's where David's right hand was, and that's where all the blood was? Maybe, I don't know. Even that really doesn't make
Yeah.
sense when you look at where the bodies were. But
Well, if his hand was removed, whether by the killer or the dog after death, it most likely would not have bled at all
uh,
because the heart has stopped pumping.
interesting. So Lori in the chat room asks, was that Kamel's blood on the recliner? And the problem is that they never tested it. Why would you not? I mean, that's the biggest blood stain in the whole house, and the freshest. It looks like some of the freshest blood there too. Why would they not test that recliner? I know we had a couple members in the group who were very frustrated when they found that out, and I totally get it. You know, it's very frustrating that they would not test that. We can maybe they didn't have to test every little thing or DNA swab the entire house, but why would you not test that recliner item 34?
I honestly don't know. And I have a huge issue with the blood that's in the house because at the from the looks of David and Camille and Ronnie, it looks like they have been deceased for a while. That blood was awfully red and it still looked pretty fresh when it was photographed. And doesn't blood usually turn brown after time after it's been exposed and dries up?
I'm not gonna do that test. You can do. Maybe we can find somebody to do that test, but that's one test that I will not do. Hey, Patty Barbie, thanks for joining us there. For real has a great comment here. Dog doesn't mess up the kitchen. That's a question. The closets, the shoes, the sofa, just his owner's body. Now there are other things like the stuffed animal, the lemur stuffed animal in the living room but it's kind of true. Like there's not the dog doesn't really mess up a whole lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, and you would think, okay, the dog is locked in that house. Why isn't he digging into the dog food? I know I harp on this a lot, but that dog food is right there in the kitchen. He knows exactly where it is, but he hasn't scratched into it. He hasn't torn into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet goes and eats on bodies that are in advanced decay.
Hmm.
I really could understand if the blood was fresh or the bodies were fresh. And I know this is extremely disgusting to discuss, but that food is right there. It's edible. It's not going to make him sick.
And he would know where to go to get that food, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
have
it
a
was
cat.
sitting right next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a very small cat, and she knows where her snacks are. And dogs are
yeah.
way a lot. I think dogs are a lot smarter than cats ever could ever be. Not as moody too, but
Mhm.
there were dog
Well,
biscuits in the kitchen on the kitchen counter too. Maybe the dog, maybe
mhm.
Paleo couldn't reach, And I'm butchering his. I've been
And that
butchering
one's
his name.
very
What's that?
yeah, and that's possible. He probably couldn't reach it. So, but I've said it in the past. I have 4 cats. I bring in a new bag of cat food, and they're digging into it. They're free fed too, so they have a bowl of food sitting right there, and they get canned food in the mornings, and they'll still dig into it. I have to put it in Tupperware just to keep that bag from getting destroyed.
It's very interesting. Um, couple other good things in the chat here. Lori says that dog can't move those bodies, and even if the little dog could, I seriously doubt that he did. Yeah, I mean, it's what would you have to do to prove that? And in stage crime scenes, I don't think that will come up too much, even though it's kind of common sense. It's like, well, if there's a dog in the house, it could have moved things. But if somebody wanted to stage a crime scene, a good prop, a good accessory would probably be that dog, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is the weird thing
Not
about the
only.
Philip Marshall case, because they killed the dog in that case. Then the difference in the Philip Marshall case was it wasn't the dog that lived. The dog did not live in that house. The dog and the children were not supposed to be there. It was just supposed to be Philip Marshall, and I think his kids were just there at the wrong place at the wrong time, etc., etc. But in this case, it's, if somebody staged David Crowley's death, they would have known that. That would have been a big part of the staging, right?
Mhm. Yeah, because he's there. He's to destroy the evidence, to create chaos at the crime scene and make it harder for the crime scene techs and detectives.
Yeah. And Patty Barbie says all the blood should have been tested, which is another great point. Why
And
why
it
wouldn't
should.
it? Yeah, and why not? Is it that much more difficult? Like, why not just test it all? Especially in a case as serious as this. If it was just one person or whatever, but when there's a child involved, you kind of expect them to go the extra mile. And I don't know about this stat, or I haven't looked up this stat, but people that commit suicide, is there some stat that would show that it's more younger people or more older people, or is that even relevant here? Because he's in the military, the military soldiers. It's just, you can go off into a whole nother area, but
I really don't even know if that's relevant with this case.
right.
I mean, people of all ages commit suicide and for different reasons, whether it's health or money or all kinds of things. But oh gosh, I had a thought
I'm
and I
sorry.
can't
I
remember it
probably
now.
cut you off during your thought.
No, it was something, and I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Oh, I remember. So I was reading the reports yesterday because I was trying to find that information about the FBI bringing the fingerprints
Mhm.
for for David. And as I was reading it, they were talking about how they received the test results, and it stated that David's blood had been on the gun and the magazine, and then Camel's was on the other things that were tested. And I think that they seriously did believe, okay, he is guilty. And when they got those test results, that's what they read,
Mm.
or that's what they were told, and they didn't bother to look further into it where it said that the unknown DNA was there.
Gotcha. Mm.
Because that's not mentioned at all in the police reports. It's just in the BCA lab report. It's just glossed over. And then you see how they're getting these reports. I don't even know if they looked through the reports that they received. It just says, received such and such report today, and I entered it into the database.
Do you know that was what that was
That was
specifically for?
for the phone records,
Okay.
for the financial records, and credit report.
Okay.
So,
Because I do think
and then they,
I do think at some point, because I do remember what you're talking about, but I do think later on they do kind of mention that, yeah, we went through it, but we didn't find anything or something.
and he mentioned that a couple times. We still have yet to find a reason. And then at the very end, he just writes what he writes. But gosh, okay, next.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
remember what I was going to say.
that's okay, and it'll come back to you. We got a lot of good comments here in the chat room too. Pansy says, also just above this talks about what the military does to monitor those who have been discharged and the things they use to get into their minds. We have to find that page and read that one. This correlates
Yeah,
with
we didn't.
Rania and Kamel hearing voices. Yeah, unfortunately, yes, it does. Lori says, seriously, I actually think it was Kamel's. I think they were expecting someone to come over. Um, Lori, are you saying it was Kamel's blood on the recliner? I've been having a hard time trying to figure out whose blood that. First of all, whose blood could that possibly be, and then whose blood was it? I mean, obviously, there's only three choices, and the bodies are not close to where that blood is. I think that pretty much, we can put the theory to rest that at some point the bodies were moved. Now, like you said, there's no way that that dog, that size dog, is going to move any of those bodies to where they were found. I don't know. I don't want to put words into your mouth if that's not exactly what you meant, but that's the way that I kind of see it. Is there's no way, right? There's no way that that dog could have moved the bodies, any of the bodies, put them there, and then we have the blanket. So because of where the blue blanket was found next to David and his wife is kind of weird, but the only one that would make sense is maybe Rania, because like you said, that's the only one that the dog could have probably moved. Now, if Rania's head is where that big recliner stain is, and I'll see if I can pull that up here at some point. Um, it's that's let me see if I can find that one. I don't know if I know we have it in our photos here somewhere. Oh, I know what I can do. I need to get more organized. Uh, while I'm looking at that, let's see. Let's see. So DNA, Patty says DNA should
Okay.
have been taken on his friend Dan Jr., who would have come through as familiar. I want to find Pansy. If you know what page that is, we're gonna go and look at the military thing. I just want to pull up item 34 here. Go ahead, Sophia, if you got something.
The way that Ronnie's shirt is pulled up by her neck,
Mm-hmm.
if she had been laying against that recliner, her shirt wouldn't have been pulled up that way if the dog had pulled her closer to Camille. It would have been pulled down, not up.
Mm.
Now, this is a little bit different, but if he had pulled her off of Camille, which I'm finding a little odd because of Ronnie's leg placement, I don't think that happened. But if he had, then that would have accounted for her shirt being pulled up.
I mean, it's pulled up all the way. It's like
Yes.
almost it's gone. There's barely any shirt there from it. Um, we had another member in our group who found that, and Samantha, she was very. That was something that really stuck out to her, and until she said that, I had not even thought about it. And once she said that, it was like, well, that is kind of weird that it would be up that high and everything, and then almost gone, and like why? So it's just another great reason to find good people, sincere people, and to try to talk to each other, to bounce ideas off of each other, and to try to hear other people's points, because that's definitely helped me. It's helped me a lot. I'm gonna go to. We're looking at the BCA images, the 711. Yeah, I know it's here somewhere. Maybe I missed it. Yeah, it's in a few different places. So this is the recliner that we have here pulled up, and here in the lower right-hand corner is where the blood was, and I'm gonna get a much better photo of that. This is weird because this was taken once the recliner was reclined, and that's what threw me off, because I thought, okay, that blood was kind of in this area. If my cursor is showing on the screen, hopefully it is. But it's not. It's actually in this lower corner. So for whatever reason, they recline this chair, not Chris Klein, but recline, and then they have this here. So this gives, and that's probably just to make sure that they had a really good image. Obviously, it's marked at this point. But when I first saw this, I kind of thought, oh, well, this is how it was found. And it was like, well, that doesn't make any sense either. But you can look at this hole here. Look at this circle. This circle. It's a clear circle. This is item 34 that was never tested. I mean, some of the blood still looks fresh. It still looks like very, and I know the camera doesn't, this, photo isn't doing it any justice. And I'll find one that kind of pulls it back. But there's hair here. Somebody's head was here. I mean, I don't know how else we can make that clear, right? Somebody's head was there. And it looks like a small head. I don't know. So let me see if I can find a zoomed out one of that. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for joining us here, too. We got 8 people watching. Right on. We got some really good comments that we're probably passing up, but I want to make sure we get to everything. And, of course, we're going to have a little internet issues here. So we need to find that page. I don't know.
I'm looking for it.
Okay. We need to find that page with the military thing. And I'm just going to look for, I want to get off item 34. I just want to look for the image where you can see where that was found. It's probably at the very bottom for whatever reason. Bear with us here, people. I told myself I was going to pull up these images first so I wouldn't have to do what I'm doing right now. But that's what happens. We're going to find that image. The image will not escape us here. Just going to take a little while to load. Getting closer. No. It's here somewhere.
I mean, there is one about, I don't see what Pansy was discussing.
Okay.
I'm going to try scrolling to see if there's something else.
So weird I can't find it now. I know it's here. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's only in the image with the bodies. Maybe that's why I can't see it here.
Oh, yeah, it is, actually. Because I was just looking at that image.
And they kind of hide that one, too, then. I mean, there was one that kind of showed where the recliner is, kind of. No?
I had sent you 2 photos, I think, of the recliner, but it wasn't. I don't think you could really get a good look at that spot.
Yeah, that recliner, that threw me off for a long time because I could not understand. Like, I was looking at the image, like, where's that blood? I think it's in the 94. I think it's in the AVPD ones that shows that recliner, but you won't know that there's blood on it unless you look really close. Sorry, everybody, I got thrown off a little bit, but now it's gonna bother me until I find it, if I can find it. If not, then we'll just move on because I want to stay on topic as much as possible here. I'm probably missing a lot of great, awesome comments and people that are joining us. Hey, Christy, thank you for joining us too. So we got a lot of good people in the chat. If anybody in the chat has anything, I will try to get to to whatever comments or anything you want to bring up as well. Sophia's sick, but she has still joined us here, so we thank her for that. And let me see if I can find one of these. It's definitely those living room photos. Yeah, I need to find a better way to share these, to put these on something. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have it. That's too bad. I thought I could have sworn I had one of these. And these thumbnails don't do it any justice either, because the thumbnails don't show everything in the picture. But I will definitely find that, because there is one that kind of where you can see where that blood is, and it's in one of these 94 pages, because I remember, because I went back because I missed it. There it is, right there. Okay, so it's the image DSC 520. I miss this. I mean, there is so much in this image here. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. There was so much here, and obviously this was the first and the only image that we got of the bodies, where the bodies were. You can see how like all of this blood spatter and everything here. And then where I'm zooming in, I'm not going to zoom in, but I'm going to put my cursor right here. I miss this blood, all of this blood. So they had already labeled it. They had already labeled it item 34. And then, obviously there's no body or anything next to it, near it. But it was just very, very odd. And this is pulled back too. So this recliner was on this rug. So again, it's not the best one, but I totally missed that there was blood here. You would really not know it unless you were able to zoom in and kind of see that there was the item 34 and that there was the blood there. So I thought that was it was just interesting how the blood would get there, and without, I mean, blood just doesn't go there, obviously. So somebody was there. It clearly shows that the bodies were moved. Anyways.
And I do believe that the bodies were moved. If you look at the photo of the bodies, you could see that there's like a really dark spot where I think that Rainey might have been laying, or she could have been laying across her mother. Both those are very plausible situations, but by the time the police got there, she wasn't in that position anymore.
Let's see if I can find that one. That's odd too. Let's see, this is probably a good one here. So this kind of shows where before or after they move those bodies. I mean, you can see where these stains are. Now, I don't know anything about what blood should look like or anything like that. So when I look at this image, this is all blood, right? I mean, I'm thinking this is all body. Yeah, it's body decomp or whatever, but there's got to be blood. There should be a lot of blood on this rug here. All of this stuff that I'm kind of moving my cursor around, all this looks like blood. No? It's something else?
Yeah, and you see how it's brown?
Mm-hmm.
That's what blood should look like after it's dried and over time. But the blood at the crime scene, like on the walls and the computer and stuff, that's still pretty red. It still looks very fresh.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, could it look that way if they had rehydrated it to take samples?
Good question. Stephanie asked, Ranya's shirt being pulled up could have been done to try to encourage Paleo to scavenge. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought. It's a sad thought.
Stephanie says Ranya's shirt being pulled up is indicative of her being dragged. That's interesting too, because I had always thought maybe the arm, there was a struggle. I think Ranya's missing arm shows signs of a struggle, possible signs of a struggle, right? I mean, I don't know.
Or it's very possible she could have been dragged and they were dragging her and it just came off. God, I feel so horrible discussing that.
Yeah. Patty says, I don't see brain matter, but maybe from blunt force trauma. Well, yeah, the dog is credited with all of that. So, the reason why all of that is missing is all credited to animal scavenging.
Mhm. It is.
Take it for what it's
There's so
worth.
much.
Yeah. Let's see.
So much that's accredited to paleo.
Yep. And then without tests. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's like, you know, okay, that's fine, but like, why come to this conclusion? Somebody brought this up, and I forget who it was. Somebody in the Facebook group, I think, or it could have been in one of the chats, in one of our live chats or something. But they brought it up about how, and we've talked about this many times, but it seems very very clear that people doing their own research are seeing this same thing, where all of this whole dog scavenging thing starts is with Judy's 911 call.
Mhm.
I mean, I would be I would love to, just think that that's just a coincidence. It's whatever. Someone who has watched too many movies or something. I don't know, but it is very odd to even say that. Just because there is a dog in the house, I don't know. I mean, I could not tell if I looked through some window and saw these dead bodies. I wouldn't be able to tell that there was dogs scavenging. Nor would I say that, or nor would I even guess that. But I also wouldn't say that, well, it was a murder or a suicide either. You would do what Colin Prochnow did.
Mhm. And did she say that she had seen paleo
She
actually scavenging at that time, or did
mm,
she just assume it?
she had said, I guess, from the dog scavenging. So it was kind of like, I guess that's what happened, or it was just phrased really really weird. And
Just checking the boxes off.
yeah, just like, don't say, observe and report. I mean, I learned that. I was a security guard for years, and it's like, that's all you do. You observe
Mhm.
and report. All right.
I learned something new about you.
There's a few little things in there. Nothing too important, but um, yes, thank you for praying. Stephanie's gonna pray for everyone else who is sick. It seems like it's gonna be that season. I think it's gonna be really bad. I think this season is. I think each season it just gets worse, and I have my own views on like flu shots and all that stuff, and why the flu gets worse every year, even though all these people are getting their shot, apparently. But that's a subject for another day. And I know you and I are also gonna one day, hopefully, maybe next week or something, we can talk about the Mexico versus the Mormon, the drug cartels and all that stuff that's going on down there. I know you've been doing a lot of research on that too.
Yeah, that's a very sad case,
Oh,
especially for the
mhm.
children that were involved.
Oh yeah, that broke my heart. I mean, I was like almost in tears just reading that, and then of course you read deeper, and it's like, you find out more and everything. But just the fact that these kids, who cares? I don't care about rivals and whatever. Even if the parents were the worst parents, whatever. For kids to go through that and to see all that is just crazy. But there are some things in that story that do not make sense, that I have strong questions on. So.
Yes,
But
of course.
Stephanie also brings up the fact that Ranya's third rib was fractured, right? So there was a fractured rib, and that's more signs of a struggle, I would think, right? A rib just doesn't get fractured, and I've never heard of a dog doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it is just strange. This whole case, if you look at everything that doesn't add up, he was it just is totally staged.
Mhm.
But by who? Was it by one person? Was it by three people?
Right.
I mean, it can't be by David, because if he had shot himself and that bullet up in the attic was his, then there's no way that he could have been found where he was without somebody going in there and moving him.
Right.
And not just
Lori,
a little bit. I mean
not
a
just
lot.
a
Moving
lot.
him by a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Hard to argue with that. Some will still try, but they shouldn't. They really
True.
shouldn't. Yeah. And that's a whole other thing. Why even argue about whatever? Anyways, we'll get to that. We'll get to all of that.
Oh,
Lori.
please. If we said the sky was blue, they would say that it wasn't. So
I should have
we're
made
just
that a
gonna.
topic. That would have. That's the only thing that probably would have beat the topic that we chose for next week. I really set myself up for that one. I really did. I really did. I just did a whole 30-minute video, a whole 30-minute rant on that. So that'll be coming out soon too. On my drive home, I did that today. So
Oh, you
yeah,
did
that's
about the poll that you ran?
yeah, yeah, I did. So I don't
Did
know
you
if
really want to talk about Kenneth Mate?
I, I, I want to go back in time. I'm looking for my time travelers right now to go back and undo that because that was like the one thing, the one area that I promised that I would never go to, but we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. Lori said something really funny. Let me see if not funny, but well, it is funny. Whatever. It's funny um, because it doesn't make sense, and this is what we are told. She says, "How did Paleo eat Kamel's hand when she was lying on it?" That's another great point, and I had thought that for some reason that Kamel's hands were crisscrossed underneath her, and then
Uh-huh.
once we got the drawing and I reread the actual what the document stated, it is mentioned in the BCA, I think just in the BCA, that one hand was underneath her and the other hand was like over her head, which is what that one drawing shows. I think the drawing is very accurate for that. But how does the hand get underneath there? And first of all, how does a hand get underneath there? Second of all, how does the dog eat the hand underneath there and then move the hand back underneath there? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it is a great point. Let's
And that's how this
see.
case is, though. I mean, there's so much that just doesn't make sense.
Yep, that is right. And like Christy says, even if Paleo scavenged the bodies, there. Even if Paleo scavenged the bodies, where would he get enough water to survive? Given the only source of water was the toilets, and that's been the other thing because there were many people that I entertained. That when this case kind of first started and I was questioning people, asking people, I entertained their theories that why the dog could have done this and been in the house for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, that's a long, long time. Nobody heard the dog for 3 weeks, according to what we know. Nobody reports hearing that. But so I listened to all of the people that said, "Oh, well, here's why," and I would kind of feed them stuff, and I would feed them stuff to see if they would take it. Well, because there was blood. Oh yeah, 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 of course. Well, the dog had access to one toilet. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Everything that I said to give a reason why the dog could have survived for 3 weeks, they agreed with, even though a lot of it did not make sense, and it was just to see if they would bite that, because that would show me if they were real or if they were full of crap.
I
Let's
mean,
see.
even with one toilet and blood, it still doesn't add up.
No,
That
and
blood
there's.
would have dried up pretty quickly or ran out,
Hmm.
and then the toilet. Number one, that water was being treated, so it was being treated with salt for the water softening or something like that. I can't remember exactly what that was like. But the bags are in the basement next to the water heater. And it would have made him kind of sick to his stomach.
Yeah, I remember you
And you
mentioning
notice
that.
that they had
Hmm.
uh, water bottles, and in the kitchen they had that water dispenser
So they weren't
because they
drinking
weren't.
faucet water.
Mm-mm, they
Gotcha.
no, not at all.
Interesting. Let me see if I have that. Oh, I think you're talking about this one, BCA 4693, and probably it's going to be hard to see. Morton looks like science salt. What does that say there? Science de salts.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this is something they were using to kind of purify their water, meaning they probably understood about the fluoride water and all that stuff that they put in water that causes trouble. I remember it must have been late 90s, and because I had had fish my whole life growing up, right? We always had a goldfish that died. You get a new one. Well, I finally learned, don't get goldfish, get a tropical fish, because goldfish just eat and eat and eat and die. But tropical fish, you can actually build things from them. So, um, but then all of a sudden, one day they were like, oh well, you can't just give tap water to your goldfish. If you fill your fish tank with tap water, your fish will die. And it's like, okay, so I had to buy these two little drops, and I would have to make sure that I put these drops in there, and the fish were fine. But we were drinking that water. We were drinking tap water.
Hmm.
So it's like, well, what does that do to us? If it kills the fish, how is it okay for us to drink? And so that's when I stopped drinking tap water.
We stopped drinking it a long, long time ago, only because our town keeps going underneath water boils. And it got to the point where I think we had four in 1 year, and one of them was almost a month long. And after that, everybody just, if you go to the grocery store, you will see every single cart has bottled water. Nobody drinks the tap water in our town.
Wow.
And I don't even give it to my cats. I give them RO water, and I use the same RO water for my fish. And
Interesting.
the in the very beginning, when I started having fish tanks, I was using tap water, and it was way, way too hard, and it killed all my shrimp, my freshwater shrimp. And one of my betas actually has tumors on him, and that was a huge wake up call. So
Wow.
I switched over everything to RO water, and I give that to the cats. We don't drink it because I buy the RO water from the pet store. But as soon as we move, we're going to be installing an RO water system so that we don't have to be buying any more bottled water.
Interesting. I want to say hi to Shannon John, who has also joined us here in the chat, and I know she's made some really good comments. I don't know, Shannon John or John Shannon, whatever it is. Made some really good comments here. So really appreciate. We have so many people that are looking into this case, doing their own research, and that's you couldn't ask for anything more, right? I mean, I wouldn't ask anybody to look at what I do, or to look at what Sophia does, or what Dan Hinnon does, or what Catherine does, or what anybody else does, and say, if you don't agree with them, if you don't believe them, there's something wrong with you, because it's not about that. It's not about any of us saying that we're right or wrong or anything like that. There's so many great people out there that are just researching this case from their own view, and coming to creating their own uh, database of research, and helping other people come to their own conclusion. I really try to stay away from the people that try to tell you what happened, and then spend years trying to convince you of why their theory is right. That's why I stay away from theories. But I box myself into a big corner here. So let me see if I can go back a little bit. Okay, so you have the page number for what Pansy was talking about a little bit.
I never
Pansy.
did find that one
Okay,
spot.
well, I'll do a search for the military. But Pansy was saying she doesn't believe Paleo was in the house until the bodies were staged. He was somewhere else. I'm wondering, Pansy, where do you think, any ideas, any clue where that somewhere else could have been? And why take the dog out and bring the dog back in? And how do you do that quietly without anybody noticing? I mean, with nosy neighbors like that, how do you move the bodies out of the house? How does somebody feel comfortable coming into that house on January 19th and then possibly adding bullet holes? But we're getting off into theories with that
People
one.
gotta sleep sometimes.
Lori says, I think he was in the basement or in the cage. Yeah, that was a big one too. I know there are a lot of people that also have thought about that. Being in the basement would be one of the only reasons why you wouldn't hear that dog. But there's poop, and it is weird. Somebody else brought this up. Where the poop was found. It might have been Stephanie. I think in the last call that brought up like where the poop was found and where the poop was not found was fascinating too. It's all the
It is
way in the
actually.
in the master bedroom, but not in the other rooms. Not in the daughter's room, but yet he ate the whole daughter's hand or the whole daughter's arm. Sorry. Let's see here. Chrissy says the blood would have been coagulated quickly, so he wouldn't have been able to drink blood long. That's what I was wondering. I think that's a good point. Like, does he have 3 weeks worth of blood? If he doesn't have 3 weeks worth of water or food, and it's just these bodies, and that's all, and that's how the dog lived, which is what Mr. Gummert said. How did the dog survive for 3 weeks? The animal scavenging. That's what they say.
When we say 3 weeks, that is because the police assumed that. I mean, could have been dead for less time, but that's what the police are saying. So that's what we're trying to go along with
Right.
for Paley.
Right. Based on what? Like, okay, they can say that, right? But what are
Hmm.
they basing the 3 week period on? And it's based on the last internet activity, which they don't do a good job of explaining that either. Everybody just kind of says, well, they
Or
were there
showing
for three
proof.
weeks. Yeah, or showing proof or anything. It'd be a very easy thing to do. I mean, all they should have done was look at David's, uh, if they had Comcast, whatever, whoever they had, you would take that bill. We have all of these other records. We got the phone record, we got their financial records, but not their internet record, not the internet activity. I don't know. I mean, that would be if we ever were able to get a lawyer to help us with this case. That would be one of the first things, and probably one of the easiest things. And maybe they'll give it to us. I don't know, but it seems like you have to ask like 3 times. You can't just ask once. You ask once, no. You ask twice, no. You ask 3 times, maybe, but no. And then you have to keep pushing and pushing, and we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to, but we also don't know what the investigators were told by the Gray State team, by the neighbor, by friends, family. We don't know what the investigators were told about people like us, because remember when this case first started, everybody who believes that there is something else going on here, before you even knew it, before you even looked into this case, you were already lumped into this group of people that believe that the government killed David. It didn't matter who you were. If you questioned any of this, that's where they put you. And I'm not talking about, that's where the investigators, that's where the cops put us. But that's where the Gray State team put us too. The same people that were working with David on all of these projects about government conspiracies, about the police state. They put us into this category before we were even here. We were already there, so they were already ready. So they already staged that part of this whole thing.
But when you look at these guys and the things that they post about, they are the biggest hypocrites. Because we have, I've mentioned this in the past, we have several that were Masons. We have quite a few that are never Trumpers that were voting for Hillary. I mean, out of all the deep staters, and for guys who are supposedly making this movie against the deep state, against the elites, they're voting for the biggest deep stater out there?
Right.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Nope, it doesn't. And Shannon John brings up another point that doesn't make sense here either. Why go through the trouble of taking such care of your body as David did just to kill your family and yourself? It makes zero sense. Just 0 cents. And that's a great point of how, and that's one of the things they never really talk about, David's fitness and how he was always fit. That's why they had to make him look like, well, he was really thin, he was stinky, he was smelly, he hadn't shaved. That all of that does not line up with everything else in David's life. It just doesn't. It doesn't line up with the people that surrounded that he had surrounded himself with. These were health nuts. These were guys who worked out. These were people who, thought about this stuff, who knew about all this stuff, and all of a sudden, whatever.
Well, these guys wouldn't even cooperate with the police. They wouldn't give their full names. They wouldn't give information to help the police with this case. And the detective even writes about it in his report.
Mm-hmm.
And I had posted that a couple of times in the comment section just in the past 24 hours. Because when I came across that, I was like, wow. They didn't even care enough to help. But they're supposedly torn up over their friend's death.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, if David was guilty, at least they could have cared enough about Kamel and Rowdy to cooperate with the police.
Right. Right. There should have been a lot more. Okay. I hate to skip over some of these comments because they're really good, but Christy says also decomp starts immediately upon death, and it wouldn't have taken long for the bodies to make him sick if he ate parts or drank blood or fluid. So that's a really good point there, I think, too, right?
Yes, and during decomp, your body is giving off gases and all kinds of other things. It's one thing to be eating bone and the marrow in the bone, but actual parts of the body, I think it really, really could have made him very sick.
I'm going to find this military part here somewhere. Forensic red flags. Yeah, this article is really good. I mean, you could spend a lot of time just getting some very good tips. I think anybody who wants to be an investigator should try to take the time to look at this stuff. It's just really good stuff. We got more fatalities. Let's see. Pansy says they evidently didn't have a dish, so they must have had cable. Yeah, they had cable. You can see the cable lines running into the basement and everywhere. So internet, that could have been their internet. I just don't really know. I don't think they had cable like old school cable. Maybe they did, but I think they had Comcast coaxial internet service, which is, especially then and there, that would have been one of the most powerful and most stable ways of getting internet service. Lori says, so was David. Oh, I just missed. So was David really shot, or was he beat in the head to death? Now I know, Catherine. If Catherine was here, I know I can guess what she would say. I can
Right?
and I can also
She's
tell
very
you, yeah,
passionate about this part.
she is, and she's very passionate. So that's what made me take her, what she said, seriously, was because she was passionate, she was sincere. When I disagreed with her, she didn't come after me. She didn't, make me seem like, she didn't pull up my background records or anything, or,
Right?
it was just, well, okay, that's cool. And we just, we agreed to disagree. But looking at the image, and I know what image she's talking about. I mean, that's what has made people think, well, it looks like blunt force trauma, and I think she makes a very strong case for it. I think she makes
Yeah.
such strong a case that it needs to be looked at further, whether it is or whether it isn't. I think the way that she has made that case is like, okay, that made me want to go back and look deeper into it, and that's where I'm at now.
And
Right.
once she showed it to me and explained it, I was like, oh, okay. That makes a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm. And then you listen to, or if you take the time to listen to people who would disagree with her, they don't disagree with her on this. They just try to attack her. So they come after
Yeah.
her instead of saying, "Well, no, this is wrong because, oh, here, see this shows that, that there was dog scavenging or something like that." It's never about the issue, it's always about the person. And I think there are a lot of people out there that are purposely doing that to shut everybody up. So I'm really happy that we have over 2,000 people that are publicly and actively still looking into this, and probably many, many more that are doing it privately, watching.
Well, I can tell the people listening right now, personal attacks are not going to stop me. They're just going to piss me off and make me dig in deeper.
Yeah, I agree. That's all it did for me. So just kind of looking at this here, this line here, I will disagree with Catherine on this line. I don't think this is a cut line, and if she didn't mean to imply that it was, then I apologize for that. But it's been a while since I've talked about this with her, so this will be a good way to force her to come back on the show at some point. So I like that. But this is kind of, the edges here. My first thought would be some animal scavenging or something. Teeth marks, whatever. The hair doesn't make sense. It's just like a lot of this just does not make sense. Is this a result of a gunshot? But when she brought up some of these things and the way that uh, these, it does kind of look like blunt force trauma. I think this is the big one here, because this one, and I don't know if you can see this or not, Sophia, but
Yeah, I can.
this is that diamond shape. Okay, the diamond shape one, yeah, that is like, what the heck? Like, okay, that's too perfect. So that one really got me thinking. Okay, maybe she has something here. So, um, I'll kind of, I don't really have any more views on that right now, other than to say that I'm not convinced that it's blunt force trauma, and I'm not convinced that it's not.
And you see those darker lines, the indentions? Those are too far spaced to be done by teeth marks from the dog.
All of these ones in here,
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like a tree of like blunt force trauma, and that
Yeah.
would
Like
line
one,
up.
two, three, 4, 5.
There's a
Yeah.
lot, right? I mean, that would line up
But it.
with what we see with that recliner and all of the low velocity blood spatter in the living room kitchen area hardwood floor that looks it's very very low.
Oh, you mean like low lying?
There's like blood spatter. I don't know if it's spatter or splatter,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it, but it's very low, and it kind of looks like that, like something might have happened there. I don't know. It could have been from a gunshot. I really don't know, but
And like Chrissy brings up a great point. A lot of the blood splatter that we see around the house is medium velocity. Velocity, excuse
hmm
me. It's not high velocity from a gun.
right. Let's see if I can find one of those. Like in this one, BCA 4749. You can see, all of this on the ground looks like low, and then medium, like you said, where this vase is. None of this was really tested. So, but I mean, it all kind of looks like it's coming from the same source. Something being dragged, if you can see my cursor where it is, this whole area, I'm going to circle this area here. It, if anything was dragged, it looks like it was here. Now, I had kind of thought that, like you said, the dog might have been in the cage or something, or the dog had drugged something, um, or this is blood, blood that got on the dog's paws. I don't know, but there's no bloody dog paws anywhere. If you look at the image of the dog after it was taken to the vet, I looked at two different things that I tried to really focus on. Was there any blood on the dog's paws? But more importantly, was there any blood on the dog's teeth or in that mouth area? There should be a lot. There should be there should be something there, right? Especially if that's what
Mhm.
what kept the dog alive for 3 weeks.
Yeah, especially around the muzzle and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
you just don't see it.
No. Nope. The highest velocity of spatter, I think, is on the south wall where that light switch is next to the Christmas tree. That's the
Okay, so
highest.
where they had photographed the gun.
Yes. Yes. See if I can find that one. Let's look at some of these. Here's a good one. BCA 4945. And unless you really zoom in, you can't tell, but it's there. Like I can point right here, right here, right here, here, and then all the way over here. There's gotta be blood on that Christmas tree, which was never tested either.
Are you able to zoom in at all on that wall?
I think so. Let's see. How deep? Close that. Let me know when you can see. I know there's a delay if you're watching on YouTube. There's a little delay on there.
I was just hoping to see if I could see the actual blood splatter.
Oh, you can't see it on there? It's all over that south wall.
I'm gonna have to go to the actual photo
Okay. Yeah,
in the
it's
Dropbox.
it's it's definitely there. I mean, there's a good set. So if you look at the 7-Eleven photos, the BCA one, um,
BCA photo.
yeah, let me zoom out a little bit here. There's a ton there where the Christmas tree is. See here. Yeah, right around BCA 4941 through BCA 4945. That's where you can really see it there. So it has to be on those books, which I do remember Sidra, Kamel's sister, saying that some of the books that she got had blood on it, which makes sense. One of the things that doesn't make sense is the blood in the closet. That does not make any sense. And it's only mentioned once, and it was only brought up separately that I've heard of once. Um,
But
so
that was brought up by somebody in the group, wasn't it?
yes. I think it was in the on it was on one of the jackets or something like that, and then that was
I know who
separately.
brought that up.
Well, that was separately
I know.
confirmed, I think, if I remember correctly, because after Dan Hennon had read my book, he had a couple um, thoughts about it. He's like, oh well, this, what about this? What about that? Then which made me go back and look at my own book, which is, that's what it's supposed to be for. It's all just for research, so we can look at it and figure out what really happened here. And there was something in there that they had mentioned. I do believe they had mentioned some blood in that closet, just very, very briefly, and it's only in those notes, and it's in the BCA 488 document. And I'll make sure to find that later on too.
Okay.
All right. We got a lot of good comments in here. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm missing. I want everybody to feel like they're a part of this. One of the things that I hate about chat rooms when you go to a YouTube chat room is you never really feel like you're part of it. It's just like you're doing your thing and you're watching a video, and it's meant to be kind of more interactive here. Um, I do want to see if I can find that one area that Pansy was talking about. About the military. If I just search here.
Patty Kamel was the one who had socks on. Randy and David were barefoot.
Okay, so case number 6. Pansy, maybe if you can confirm that this is the case that we were talking about here. But there's a lot of good cases here, and I think it's, anyone who is interested in stage crime scenes, you can learn a lot from this here. And I do hope to reach out to the author, one of the authors that is still with us. Let's see. Chrissy says the orange yellow wall is very clear that it isn't high velocity. Definitely. Everything looks low and then medium. And even on that south wall where the front window is, that's the south wall there. That's medium too, right? Still looks a little higher than the others, but it's still medium.
Yeah, that wall looked like medium. In fact, I don't think I even saw any high velocity. I know that you were talking about that one wall next to the Christmas tree. I still need to find that photo.
Yeah, that's the south wall. That's the where the front window is, next to that light switch.
Oh, I have that screenshot. I'll pull it in a minute.
Okay.
Look at it.
See, Pansy says the spot behind the chair has those footprint spots, like by the counterpart. Very interesting. Hey, Paulette, thanks for joining us too. And Johanna Love, thank you for joining us. She says she saw and felt something being hit in the head coming into the kitchen from the hallway. Interesting. Stephanie Bowling says, didn't Sidra say there was blood spatter on a white coat she got from the house? I think you're right. The coat was in the front closet, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. And I'm going to look at that front closet. Yep, you are right. That's exactly where that came from. Thank you for that. And I do remember looking through. There is an image here somewhere that does show that front closet. So I'm going to see if I can find that. Which to me was like, that makes no sense. Makes no sense. Even if the closet was open. Here we go. Image BCA 4474 is what we're going to look at now. Okay, there's 2 potentially white jackets here. The one that she would want obviously would be this one to the right. I don't see any blood on that. Maybe it's lower. Let's go here. I don't see any blood there. No blood there, no blood there, no blood there. Meh, I don't know. Maybe this little thing here. It looks like a shadow. Um, so I don't know. This, first of all, there's no reason for this to be open. And I don't think somebody would put blood on it and then go and hang it up here. If anything was hung up, the last thing, if I were to look at this closet and guess what the last thing that was hung up was, it would be this black coat here, the black pea coat from David, most likely. So, and his military coat is in there too as well. That's interesting.
See, and I had some people trying to convince me that there was blood on the black jacket. I
I
didn't
mean,
see that at all.
yeah, I mean, we're looking at that right now, and I'm gonna kind of zoom in. Can zoom in on these, and I mean, if it was, then it's not noted anywhere that this closet is open. And if there's blood there should be blood in some other places here too that we should see. I'm not
And why
seeing
didn't
any.
the police take samples of that? If it actually was blood.
Right. And if it was blood, why would there be blood here? Knowing where the closet is and where all the other blood is, that doesn't make sense either for blood to be there. It really doesn't. Because they have clear. I mean, the closet is in this area here behind this wall. This would be the east
Uh-huh.
wall here that I'm pointing at. And so next to the door, I mean, none of that would make sense. That would only line up if kind of, if this is where one of the bodies were or where somebody was shot. But for blood to be there and not to be on any of this wall, the south wall or the east wall or anything, would be odd. Now, on that south wall there, at some point, there does look like there was something that was wiped up. So, I don't know. Maybe we're getting way off into it, but that comment by Sidger, and thank you for bringing that up because that just did not make sense. So, Stephanie, thank you for that. It's always good to have a reminder.
It's just comments like this really do a disservice to the case if it's not proven. If the police didn't swab this, they didn't bother to take it to the police and say, hey, this jacket had blood on it.
Right.
But they didn't say that. They didn't follow through with it. I just really believe that it was disinfo. Unless it's backed up.
Right.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for joining us. Everybody's been asking, where is Dan Hannon? What's going on with Dan Hannon? So I'm glad he's here. Let us know if you have anything you want to say or cover. That white coat. I'll have to look more deeper into that white coat now. All right. Let's see if there's anything else in the comments here. One of the pictures shows her foot. Yes, it does show her foot. It shows her bloody sock, right? And that's blood. I remember we had gone back and forth. A few people, well, no, it's not blood. It's decomp. I don't know. Looks like blood to me. I have no idea though. I mean, that would be my first thought. Looking at that image would be, oh, it's blood. Why is she walking around in blood is a whole other issue. So I don't know. But I forget who pointed out that they thought that it was decomp. Maybe it is. You would just think that with all of this, and even this, like item 20, item 21, item 22, like those were just the most random things where they were, especially 21 and 22. How does a little blood stain get all the way over into the kitchen? But I don't know. It's dripping blood. I think Dan had pointed that out at some point there's a difference between blood that would have been from a gunshot, blood that would have been dripping, and blood that would have been kind of like, if you have a bloody hand and you just kind of fling it at
Mhm.
something. So there is a big, big difference.
Yeah, and this one looked like it had actually dripped from something.
It was dripping blood. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
What do you think about David's cell phone and the fact that it's all bloody, but the headphones aren't bloody at all?
It just looked like somebody had picked it up to scroll for something or look for something off of his phone.
Take something out, perhaps.
Mhm.
Take the
Yes,
SIM card out, maybe.
possibly. But if they took the SIM card out, how is? Oh no, text messages would probably,
It would
you know,
still all
SIM
be.
card.
Yeah, I mean, what is the
Yeah,
purpose of taking the SIM card out unless you have no idea what you're doing and have no
yeah,
idea
because
that.
everything is saved.
Right. And that
Even on
doesn't.
computers, the same thing.
Right. And they would have known that. The authorities would have known that. Should have known that. I'm having a hard time finding that image with her foot, but I guess that's for the best. Let's see. I don't know if Pansy ever asked us or not about that. Um, if she confirmed that I was on the right page for case number 6 or not. That's the only one I see with the military. I mean, there might be some other ones in
Yeah,
there.
that's all I saw too. But I was
Okay.
just scanning through it real fast.
Okay. Dan just finished a new video. Awesome. I will publish once the live stream has completed. Right on, man. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. He said it was in related or a video relates to item 57 and the writing on the wall,
Oh, great.
and it includes a reenactment.
Oh, that's
Wow, I'm
awesome.
excited for that.
Yeah, I want to simul stream that one. That's great. Okay. And cast off blood. Okay, so highway velocity resume, cast off blood. Okay, cast off. I remember him mentioning what cast off blood was. Okay.
Pansy said to go down further in the article.
Further? Okay.
Hmm.
Types of stage crime scenes. Let's look at case number 7.
Oh, she says sorry, scroll up.
Oh,
Oh my
stroll up.
goodness.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's go. It's definitely before that one. So, case number 1 is the executive returns home from a business. The anger, revenge. Interesting. Okay. Case number 2, a distraught man called a small police department and reported that he had found his employee dead in her apartment. He didn't. Oh wait. Initially, the police believed they were looking at him. Okay. I'm always interested. The people that call 911. Has anybody ever said, "Hey, this could be a suicide. Oh, this could be a murder. There's a dog, so the dog might have eaten everything." It's just so unheard of, as far as I've found. Maybe I mean they're not saying there aren't cases out there with that, but I just have not found any. An on-duty police officer called his station and reported that he was in the region of a county well known for drug dealing. And that's the other thing. Apple Valley, I know Dan Hinnon, you've lived in Apple Valley. Um, I don't think it's a. Maybe you can kind of give us some background about what Apple Valley is like. Is it a high crime area? Is there lots of drugs there? Type of area this is. And I think that's one of the reasons why um, the police have gotten a pass because they don't get a lot of crimes like this. except for one of the crimes afterwards, I think.
Yeah. And wasn't there like another one that had happened before? And it was just several years before that. I have to go back and look at Google again.
Okay. Case number 5. Pansy, you gotta help us out here. So we're looking at case number 5, and the only
It's
military
definitely
one
a.
is case number 6. That's the only one I see. I mean, but you can see how differently, if you look at all of these cases, they're so different. There's so many possibilities, so many, ways that it could be something staged, and it's just like, are police, are they getting trained to look for staged crime scenes? It seems like it's like a movie, right? It's like, because you see so many movies about all these far-fetched things, that those are the things that people don't take seriously, because that could only happen in movies.
Yeah. And that's why I keep saying it seems like she was given a script. Seems like it. Not saying it happened, but the way that she just hit every single mark.
All right. She says it's further down. I'm going to go to further down. Now at page 10. Case number 7. A man returned from homework and called out for his 14-year-old son. Receiving no response, he decided to wash some clothes and went to the laundry room. On entering the room, he saw his son sitting on a stool, cross-dressed in his mother's lingerie, with a rope around his neck and attached to a hook in the ceiling. Epstein.
Didn't kill himself?
No. Come on.
You said it first.
I'm not convinced he's dead. That's a whole nother issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a guy like that, nah, he's got some backup plans. Well, those are the two. Case number 8. Allison reported to the police that she had returned home at late night, and when she parked her car, she noticed that the words "Kill Allison" or "Blood Spill" had been printed in chalk on the brick siding of her home. Thinking it was the work of a prankster, she stepped onto her porch and saw the words "F. Allison" in chalk on the floor of the porch. Well, this is normal in Oakland, California. This is like a day in the life. When she inserted her keys into the lock, she saw "Blood Spill" and "Kill Allison" in chalk on her door facing. She advised that she was not concerned, and she entered the home and was confronted by a large man who beat her and raped her. The man then dragged her into the woods near her home and inserted a tree limb into her sufficiently far enough that it had to be surgically removed. Oh, that's disgusting. What the heck? So how was that a staged thing? Okay, I guess they're staged because case number 6 and 8, they were a clear attempt by the staging offender to manipulate the scene and mislead the police. By definition, each of these situations merit. Wow. This is brutal. I mean, these guys have done some amazing research. Definitely need to look further into them. The most common type of staging occurs when the perpetrator changes elements of the scenes to make the death appear to be a suicide or accident in order to cover up a murder. The second most common type of staging is when the perpetrator attempts to redirect the investigation by making the crime appear to be a sex-related homicide. We know this case was not that, but definitely the first part makes sense. Hey Eric, how are you? Eric Spitfire has also joined us in the chat room here. and he does a lot of good live shows, and he's one of the first people that really helped Dan and myself keep this case going. Back when nobody ever wanted to talk about this, when it was taboo, everybody wanted to move on. And I'm talking about the alternative media, which I used to only listen to. Everything that I would, all of my news, everything, I would not trust the mainstream media, nothing like that. It was all the alternative media, and I was so after this case came out, and Dan Hinnon with his research and looking at this stuff, nobody in the alternative media wanted to talk about this. Well, Eric Spitfire Wilkinson was one of the only people who actually would cover this story, and so I definitely thank him for that. And he's definitely a big part of the reason why we're still here, why we're still moving on.
Thank you, Eric.
Let's see. Non-fatal stage crimes. Fish hat. Yeah, we'll have to get back on there soon. Investigative strategies. The investigator must be open to all possibilities. All possibilities. This is one of the biggest things that one of the biggest issues that I think a lot of us had with Kenneth Maines, is because he did not seem open to a lot of possibilities just by the fact that he would only mention the extreme. It was either all of the police were involved in it or David was guilty. With Kenneth Maines, those were the two choices that we were really given, and there should have been a lot more. He didn't need to go there. He went to places that it was like the pattern. We had already seen this pattern, and here is another guy who all of a sudden has a show on the History Channel or one of those channels, one of those cable channels that nobody's watching, and it's the same thing. Well, they wouldn't have done this. He agreed with the investigators on this case. Just and he had only seen, I think, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had only seen the 94 pages and some of those photos. Based on that, he was able to say that he agreed with the investigators. It wasn't like it was there, and I don't even want to get started on what he said about item 57. We'll save that for another time. But it's just like you can clearly see the motive of certain people by what they say, by what they discount, by what they brush off of their shoulders. And anybody who is willing to brush off of their shoulders item 57, I don't take them seriously. I can't. I can't. Because they're not looking at it. I mean, I have, I have spoken with local law enforcement people who, when you talk about item 57, that's what gets them. And I think that's why they want to suppress item 57 and item 53. Because item 53 is also that's also a big one too. But, item 57 seems to affect law enforcement in a much bigger way than anything else does. Not, it'll always come back to, well, David killed his daughter when you start talking about item 57. It's not coming back to, wait a minute, let's look at item 57. It's, well, he killed his daughter, so we can't look any further. We're not going to dig any deeper into this, and that's it. Which is what Danny Mason was basically saying too. It's like, because they killed their daughter, he's garbage, he's this, he's that. But it's like, well, wait a minute. You don't even know that he killed his daughter. You can't prove he killed his daughter. Nobody can. So why would you assume that?
Exactly.
Unless you want to believe that he killed his daughter, then put your tinfoil hat on. I mean, those are the real tinfoil hat people. The ones who believe the official story. Those are the conspiracy theorists. Those are the radicals. Those are the people that do not care about facts and do not care about truth. They don't care about Rania. They don't care about Kamel. They don't care about David. They don't care about finding what happened here. They want to believe what they want to believe because it makes them feel better. Anyways.
And for the newer people that just showed up in the chat room, when we're discussing item 57, which is the attic bullet that went through the ceiling, when you look at David's body placement and where the bullet exit on the left side of his skull, that bullet hole does not line up to where David was lying. And especially when the bullet exited, it would have had to do a complete U-turn and then go straight up into that ceiling. And I just don't see that happening. And then for it not to have any blood tissue or hair on it, but it still had his DNA, this is a hollow point. It would have certainly had something from David if it had gone through his skull. But it looks very, very clean. I don't see it being tied to him. And then did it only just have his DNA? I can't remember. Or did it have some unknown on there also?
For 57?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just his.
Okay. I couldn't remember if that was an item that had unknown DNA on it also. Or not.
Okay. Pansy, tell me if I'm close here. Let's see. Patty says, what are the families doing? Anything? No. The families are trying to move on, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how you can sleep at night knowing that this case is not solved, that you don't have closure. And so I think a lot of the misdirected anger is geared towards us. And it's pointed towards us because then it gives them something, it gives them a distraction. So instead of them focusing on what proves David guilty and finding the truth, they can just focus on us and try to, tear apart little pieces here, little pieces there. And that too shows, well, I mean, where's the sincerity in that? In going after people who are asking questions. They get angry. That's not normal.
I've only seen the anger from a couple of the friends and not from the family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since I've been involved in the case, and I've seen it more from ex-members of the group than anybody really connected to the case besides one particular person who shall remain nameless. But, I mean, because she's just as bad as Beetlejuice. You say her name and boom, she's there. So, but the family, I haven't seen any anger from the family at all.
No, I've only heard of it. It's only talked about by other people, right? It's never, I mean, that's never been an issue. I've never seen that issue, really.
Yeah, and it's just hearsay from certain people.
It is.
But, and then they say that they're sitting there being the mouthpieces for the families. Did they ask you to do that, folks? Or did you just take it upon yourself?
That's right.
Okay. Are we getting close to this part of the article?
Pansy keeps saying we're close, but then
she said she didn't see it.
Yeah. It's an illusion. It's in your mind. I mean, the only thing was number 6. That was the only thing that I saw that was tied to a military person here. But what I think I want to do right now is I want to play this video. I want to play Catherine's video.
It is so good.
So this is an 11-minute video. We're gonna take a little break. I'm gonna take a little break. I'm just gonna mute myself for 11 minutes, and then everybody, if you want to come back, and we'll discuss the contents of this one here in preparation for Dan Hinnan's video that he just put out. Curious to see. Oh, look at this. Crowley case updates, getting the visual. Oh, yeah. He's teasing us. Dan Hinnan is on a different time zone, so definitely he's probably tired now. So thanks, Dan, for joining us. We all really appreciate that. And I'm going to play this video here, and then we'll all come back and discuss it. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
All right. Let's do it. Hope Catherine doesn't mind.
Hi YouTube, it's Catherine Michelle. Today we're going to talk about the body positions in relation to item 57 and the wound on David's head. Sophia has been covering this a lot on the Justice for David Crowley and Family page, and as I was helping her with some of this and going over what was where and how it correlated with the other position, again, as always, things in this case just didn't add up. So we're going to draw it out on the paper for you to see exactly. I'm taking everything from the reports. This is their hand drawing. These are written notes. And then finally from the BCA report. So first of all, let's start with the drawing. And obviously this is not to scale. So we have north, south, east, and west. And here, the body positions, as you will see, this is David, Kamel, and Rania. Now, in all of the reports, it states that David was positioned. He's on his back with his arms fully extended, and we all know that, fully extended. And his feet are northwest, and his head area to the southeast. I think if we can get that close, you can see that. Now, this drawing roughly represents that, so we'll kind of go ahead and do this. And I'll do stick figures. So we have David's missing head, so obviously we just have feet. So here's north, here's west, here's going south, and then his arms fully extended, missing the head. Here's where his head should have been. And now we have Kamel. They show Kamel as being and I will show this to you as well. Her head, well, it's this area right there in purple. And it says her head area is northwest and her feet are southeast. So now her body's lying in the exact opposite position of David's. Of course, this couch actually comes out more. We'll make this the cushions. Because her head in the photo actually shows where her head should have been was actually very close to here. So where her head should have been would have been like right here. And here are her feet. And then this one has the arm under her body. Now remember, this is under her body from her left under going up toward the right. Hand is missing as well. Again, how the dog ate a hand from underneath her body. Kaleo was a magician. Gotta love that dog. And then Rania, in one of the first photos that they show, again, one of those slip-up photos that they let out, was you see as they're coming through the front door of the photo, and you see Kamel lying on her stomach, her legs are spread, and then Rania is between her legs, and you can see that it's between. And yet these photos here and their little description show it as her being, oh wait, no, just like this, I'm sorry, just like this is how the original photo shows. But the rest of the photos, they show her lying on top of her mother's legs. Now we know that's not true because the photo evidence proves that not to be true. Okay. Sorry. Now, and we know Rania is here. And then her little arm is over there. Okay, so we have Kamel's head in the northwestern position and David's head in the southeastern position. Here's the east wall over here. We have the front window over here. Here's the kitchen area, again, north, south, east, west. Now, a month later, a bullet was found above this east wall. Is going to be somewhere over here in the ceiling area, is where item 57 is going to be located in the attic. Okay, so here's let's say here's the front door. I guess it swings in this way. I forget how they do all that. Doing it backwards, but so the front door swings in, and here is, like, say, the light over the front entryway in the ceiling, and somewhere over here is going to be like the hole. Now mind you, his head is facing this way. Here's the thing in the window, in the ceiling. We've got the bullet hole going that way. I'm gonna use a different color to help emphasize this. His head position is this way. We've got the bullet entry into the ceiling over here. Now, where David's head should have been, there was a little bit left. We know that the exit wound was, let me find that, if I believe correctly, it was, hold on, let me find that. Okay, I wanted to go and pull up his autopsy report so you guys can see it for yourself. And here, areas in purple, concentrate on that. And it says that the exit wound is the left parietal bone with external beveling. So the external beveling means where the projectile came out of his head. This would be his right side, where the entrance was somewhere over here. The bullet exited from this part of his head over here. His head is facing this direction. The ceiling entryway is that way. The exit wound is this way, near the front window. Are we beginning to see the problem here? And this is, again, one of the many reasons why, according to their documents, not anything anyone else has conjured up, by the documents, by the written reports, by the photographs, and by the evidence, it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, and without question, David did not shoot himself. Now mind you, the gun is also down here. The reports state anywhere from a few inches to a foot, to a few inches to a foot on David's left-hand side. He's right-handed, his right hand is missing. And it's on the left-hand side, down here. We have the entry is this way somewhere over here on his head. Exits here. Okay, I hope you guys are getting this. They're trying to get you guys to believe that he was standing, shot himself in the right side, it exited the left, he fell like this, with his clothes being pulled part way up, as well as Rania's clothes. Now we know her pants, her sweatpants were pulled part way down in the back, but all the way up in the front. That is usually indicative of dragging a body, like you're dragging someone, so the pants and the clothes either pull down or whatever. Same with David. So he gets shot over on the right. It exits to the left, which would be this way. Here's the entrance to the ceiling, and it ends up somewhere mysteriously a month later. Nobody saw it by the front door, which it was then at one point when they came back the month later. their words, their exact words were an obvious defect in the ceiling. So I don't believe for one moment that they were there for 12, 13 hours and no one saw, recorded, or documented that hole in any of the reports that we have. So, you guys want me to believe that this wasn't a cover-up? Well, however the cover-up may be, was it due to his writing? Was it due to the fact that it was just really shoddy police work? Or is there something else? Is there something more nefarious? I don't know. All I know is the evidence is saying the bullet could not have exited his left side. His body could not be facing toward his head toward the south east direction. And the bullet entryway into the attic, they say is from a west to east entrance. How does that happen, Apple Valley? How? Explain it. Your math doesn't add up. Anybody else? So I'm hoping that this will explain it better and that you guys can get a better understanding why it is impossible for David to have shot himself in the head. Again, Camille, and most of her head, now mind you, was missing. And here is the couch cushion, and here is where her head should have been. So you know that if her head had been there when she was placed there, which they're blaming on dog scavenging, there's just no way, because this part of her head that's missing, or maybe this portion of it, what's left here by the edge of the couch is basically roughly where the mouth is. And then they expect you to believe that a dog got in there and forced his way down into this really weird, awkward position to eat the head and just the face, but yet the back of her head's still there. Same with David and Rania, whose abdomen was clearly exposed and completely exposed, that a dog would eat hard heads, necks that it can't even get to, a hand it can't get to, is going to eat all of that and not an exposed abdomen on a child. One last time, west wall, east wall, kitchen was to the north, front window to the south, his body heading this direction, the gunshot wound going this direction, the bullet entrance into the attic was this direction. You messed up again.
All right. All right, we're back now. Yeah, you messed up again.
Can't argue with that, though. I mean, she's very on point.
Yeah, it is. It really is. The one thing I think was missing from there that would even further get her more riled up and help her articulate this was item 34, because none of that explains item 34 either. So, but yeah, that was a great video. I like watching that one.
Yeah. And I'm very, very thankful for her actually going through and showing where everything was and where David and Camille were in correlation with the bullet hole, because I was having a hard time seeing it in my head, and it just wasn't adding up with what I was reading. And then when she did that video, I was like, yes, thank you, because that helped me, and I know it helped a lot of other people.
That's right. Let's see. Anything else? Think we need to talk about or cover, or anything else you want to get off your mind? Let people know, or I'll look through the comments here in the chat too.
The article that we were referring to in this video has been put to the top of the group. I think it's right underneath Dan's video if you go there right now.
Yeah. go there.
If you haven't read the article, please do. It is amazing. And
So let's see what's going
other
on
than
in
that,
the group. Yep, there it is. Latest updates on the Crowley case. 47 minutes. Includes reenactments. Wow. Oh, I gotta go watch this.
I know.
Yeah, alright, we're gonna have to shut this
Exactly.
down. So we're gonna shut this down. Everybody's gonna have to go to Dan Hinnan's YouTube channel. This is Catherine's channel here. But Catherine Michelle, she has a good name. I forget what the URL name it is, but it's really good. And then this is Dan Hinnan's here, so make sure they go and check that out. Check out some of his other stuff. He's done a lot of videos there too. A lot of 911 videos. If you haven't seen the stuff he's done with Greg Ford, that's really good stuff there too. I really enjoy listening to him and Greg Ford. I think Greg Ford has a book out that is a very good read for anybody who's concerned about the police state, the deep state, all of that stuff. Greg Ford has a lot of good knowledge on that, a lot of good articulate information. And Dan Hinnon also does a show with Alternative Affairs Media. So make sure you check that out. Check that out live. And I think that's it. Unless there's any other comments, I say we all go over to Dan's YouTube channel and go check that out.
That's where I'm heading.
All right. You have a great night.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you all, and God bless you all. And we'll come back here next week. We'll come back here Thursday, and we'll do... Let me pull that up before we go here. I really set myself... I want to see what the numbers are. So, this is the link for the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group. If you're looking for any documents, if you want to keep up with everything that's going on, this is the best place to go for that. Looking at some of the posts here. This person, I want to get this person on to do a show. This movie and book and everything that he was creating is very similar. Very similar. I mean, even the global control, the unity, the triangle. And even Bobby is asking, when is this movie going to be out? Because this is what people wanted. This person is going to have a very interesting story, and I'm going to make that interview happen. And we'll just let this person say whatever they want. I might throw in a couple questions, this and that. But other than that, that story is fascinating. I'm very fascinated by it. And I've only heard a very small portion of it. Let's see. And then you've put out some good stuff, too. Information regarding David's fingerprints, a military fingerprint card that was delivered through the FBI. And you posted this. How many images? 4 images?
Well,
Give us a little background.
The information. This was more in regards to where they discuss his fingerprints. And that was the last thing for them to receive was the analysis back from his fingerprints. And then they closed the case out after that. And so, let's see, there's like an email where he received the thing from the FBI. I guess it was just an attachment, and it had his fingerprint card. Could have sworn he received it through the mail. Yeah, it's just something else. And then here is latent print process, and it was talking about item 1, which is the gun and the magazine. Then what else? I'm trying to go back. I did this a couple days ago, and I wasn't feeling well. So.
Yeah, this clearly shows. Go ahead.
Just anything that they were talking about in regards to fingerprints and David, that's what I was trying to pull from the records and post. And one of them is like the analysis. Another one was, let's see, the notebook. And then there was one other thing. What they used, the system that they used, which was an automatic fingerprint identification network. Oh, Midwest automatic fingerprint. So they ran him through that, but it didn't generate any matches, just
Mhm.
probably meaning he's never been arrested.
Yep.
He
That's
got
right.
his gun license in Texas, didn't he?
Yes. He and his wife got it at the same time, and I'm gonna look at that. So we have on the website, thegraystage.wordpress.com shows 12 pages of all of the gun stuff. I think Laura, one of our members named Laura, I think she took all of the different things that had to do with guns and put them all into one file. She did that with a lot of things, but this was in Minnesota, so that's where they got. Let's see.
I thought that they took your fingerprints when you got a gun license.
Yeah, that might. Let me
If
see.
anybody's listening to this and knows, do they take your fingerprints when you get a gun license, or is that just in some states? Is that all across the board? Am I just making things up now?
No, I think Kamel bought one of the guns in Texas, if I remember correctly. I think so. I think this one here was purchased in Texas. Yeah, Dallas, Texas. There it is. Yeah, so I don't know what are the. I mean, can I just walk into any place in Dallas, Texas, and buy a gun? Because this gun was later sold. Here's what I found, and this is what I put in my book, that Kamel bought this gun, but David sold it. So how does that work in Texas?
You still have to go through background checks, but personal sales, I still think you have to go through a background check. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because there were some that he gifted.
Mhm.
But this one, this one was no, it was okay. Let's see, a receipt of sale. Yeah, on June 12th, David Crowley transferred the handgun to David Stark, who is not a prior felon. This
Which
transfer is
gun is
being
that?
conducted as a sale. So this is US 163310. This is not one that was found in the house or anything like that. We just have the record that shows that Kamel bought this gun in at the gun zone in on Buckner Boulevard, Dallas, Texas, and she bought it for a total of $508.76 after taxes. This is also a Springfield XG 40 cal, but it's
Mhm.
but it's not the murder, but it's the same. Um, and the bill of sale is dated as 7/25/2009.
If I remember correctly, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, you can buy the gun. You just can't leave with it until you pass the background check. That's a huge question mark because I
Okay.
know that you cannot leave the store unless you have a background check.
Well, maybe we can
It's
call
not as
the
easy.
maybe
Well,
we'll.
it's not as easy as the
Mhm.
people who are against guns say it is. You have to go through rigorous backgrounds, and you can't just walk in and say, "Here's my ID. I'd like to buy one." So I just want people to know it's not as easy as that. They already make it hard enough for responsible gun owners.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going through the comments. Unless anybody else has any other questions or anything, I want to go check out Dan Hannon's video before I pass out here.
Mhm. I agree. I want to watch this video and then go to bed.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to see the reason why I wanted to go here is because I wanted to see what the results were. I was hoping the results would change or something, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Okay, we got 20 people who want next. Okay, well, I mean that's pretty much it, I think. Next week's topic will be about theories about what really happened. We have 20 people who want that, 3 who want the Kenneth Mains, and 1 who want the paranormal. Now, I'm going to say this. The paranormal and the pack theory could fall under theories about what really happened. All right?
And then we were going to discuss the Mexican cartel and Mormon
Yep.
thing.
Absolutely. We're going to do that too.
And the
So,
reason why we were going to discuss that, my dad used to work, he would go during the week, and he was a traveling salesman. He sold boxes in Mexico. After they did the whole, I guess, when they opened up trade with Mexico,
mhm.
I can't remember if it was during the Clinton administration. So he had traveled. We had lived in Dallas and went back down to McAllen, and he would travel during the week. So he was always going from deep down in Mexico back up to the border every single week. He would make that trip. We were very familiar with cartels. We even had a family friend who was from Mexico City who was kidnapped by the cartels. And when this thing hit the news, I was like, this doesn't sound right. So that was the reason why we were going to discuss this next week. And found a lot of interesting things in regards to the community, the Mormon community that was living in Mexico. So it'll be an interesting conversation.
That's right. Okay,
And
yeah, yeah, like, okay, let's go, let's get out of here.
yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly. Good night,
And
everybody.
good
Thank you
night,
very
everyone.
much.
And Lori, yeah, definitely you can reach out to us and we'll definitely chat more about this. Thank you, everybody, and go check out Dan Hannon's video and then go to bed, and we'll see you here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Everybody have a good night.